Marvel's first family will finally be joining the MCU, marking the transition to their new home after languishing in 20th Century Fox's back catalog. So much fuss has been thrown around about them, and it's understandable as they're also one of the most famous superheroes on Earth, as well as being the most brilliant scientists too. Thus, today we're gonna have a look at them and what they'll bring to the table, all the changes and shifts with them joining the MCU sometime in the future of Marvel's Phase 4. Recap.
You are trouble.
Trouble is my middle name.
Oh, you're hot.
Why, thank you, so are you. And I'm not afraid to cry.
The Fantastic Four was one of Marvel's most recognizable brands before the launch of the MCU even came to be, so the property seemed prized to capitalize on the modern trend of superhero blockbusters. Unfortunately, this has not been the case so far, but Disney is finally ready to unleash them into the larger MCU canon, finally placing Marvel's first family where they belong after being shackled for so many years. And we're saying finally, as this will be the third attempt to produce a big screen adaptation of the heroes, with the working title of the movie now just being Fantastic Four. The original was something of a progenitor to the MCU, following the success of Sony's Spider-Man and Fox's X-Men movies. The first iteration of the movie, released in 2005, boasted a star-studded cast including the likes of Captain America himself, Chris Evans, and Jessica Alba. The movie, on the other hand, was a little bit off a dud, but just enough to earn a sequel. Another lukewarm reception to Fantastic Four, the rise of the Silver Surfer, and a fair bit of criticism over the portrayal of Galactus, one of the biggest Marvel villains, the franchise got shelved. Newcomer Josh Trank was tasked with reinventing the franchise in another film, simply called Fantastic Four in 2015.
Dr. Storm, we gave you 6 years and millions of dollars, and you gave us nothing. What's different now?
The film itself adapted a darker tone when compared to the previous two, with a nonsensical plot leading to it being even more poorly received than the previous attempts, so an even bigger failure than the previous ones. Following the acquisition of Fox Studios in 2019, Disney gained the rights of the X-Men and the Fantastic Four franchise, which would go on to turn many heads of fans around the world, with all of them hoping that they'll finally get what they deserve when this family is concerned. And with the announcement that came, the Fantastic Four coming to the MCU, here we've prepared for you some changes that will occur with them becoming part of the MCU and staying for good.
I'm happy to announce a film about one of the truly iconic Marvel families. In fact, Marvel's first family, Fantastic Four.
Dr. Doom. Of course, we're gonna talk about Dr. Doom first. Who else, right? He's the most iconic villain in the entire MCU, not just the Fantastic Four. However, he's been a thorn in their toe for quite a while now. Due to the issue of copyright, we've gone the entire duration of the Marvel Cinematic Universe without one of the biggest supervillains of all time, Victor Von Doom. In a post-Avengers Endgame MCU, we require a major antagonist, knowing that Thanos' looming presence is no longer with us. Yes, we have Kang the Conqueror, but we still need Dr. Doom, whom we are sure about making an appearance as the Fantastic Four movie comes out. The release of Marvel's first family will also be the perfect opportunity for Marvel Studios to introduce him as one of the villains who pose a huge threat, but one who doesn't hail from the outer reaches of space, a very powerful individual from Earth. Galactus. Memes aside, the term Avengers-level threat has been thrown around a lot recently in the wake of the next Spider-Man movie, and if there ever is a major threat to all of our superheroes, one who exemplifies this description, then we must take Galactus, the devourer of worlds, in an account, and if this title of his does not spell it out for you, then we don't know what else we can tell you about him other than the fact that he devours planets to survive. He's constantly traversing the universe searching for planets to devour and satiate his hunger. The connection between the Fantastic Four and Galactus is already there, both in the comics and in the live-action adaptation, despite but a fraction of him appearing on screen manifested by a huge storm coming. As Marvel's most powerful and intimidating villains are concerned, Galactus will be the one who will have a huge impact on the entire MCU, an event bound to happen with the arrival of the Fantastic Four.
My people called it Galactus, the devourer of worlds.
Silver Surfer. While we're at Galactus, we also have to talk about his, let's call him Scout, the Silver Surfer. And while the Silver Surfer is a character synonymous with Galactus, the role of Harbinger, Galactus' right hand so to speak, this is not the only position Norrin Radd has held in Marvel Comics. Following his employment with Galactus, the Silver Surfer takes to the stars, becoming both the epitome of voice of the 60s and an integral member of the Cosmic Marvel. The Silver Surfer has already had his first debut on the big screen in the second movie of the Fantastic Four, but seeing the astounding success that Marvel Studios has had in integrating the intergalactic aspects of their universe, Eternals being the most recent prime example, it would only make sense for his inclusion to the MCU happen with the arrival of the Fantastic Four. Advances in space. We were all witnesses of the MCU expansion upon its intergalactic sector, with the Eternals movie being the last project of the so-called Cosmic Marvel, a term used for the interstellar part of the MCU. However, outside of the Eternals movie and the Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, the heroes on Earth have been largely disconnected to one another. However, this might be a subject to change as Phase 4 of the MCU starts unraveling more and more new things for all of us to see, a period in the MCU for which has been said to be going more and more into space. Thus, with the knowledge we have about the next Fantastic Four movie and the educated guess of that movie being placed somewhere at the end of Phase 4 of Marvel, we think that the movie will catalyze this notion, a bridge that will connect the happenings of the Cosmic Marvel and those that are homebound. Namor. After many teases and mentions of his home world, we're still waiting for one of Marvel's premier heroes from the early 1940s. We're talking about Namor, the submariner, who was frequently served as a hero and adversary to the Fantastic Four across the team's history in the comics. And we think that the Fantastic Four family will end our misery and finally bring one of the more popular heroes to the big screen, the Aquaman of the MCU. With the integration of the Fantastic Four in the MCU, the chances of seeing him are getting progressively larger, a character which will bring a lot of versatility to the table, as unlike many of the more black and white characters currently in the MCU, the Submariner can be implemented as either an ally or villain, a status he had for a while in the comics. Filling the void.
My service spares my world and the one I love.
As much as we hate to admit it, the hole left by Tony Stark and Steve Rogers in the MCU will be nearly impossible to fill, but that doesn't mean that it's time to give up hope. We think that you'll all agree with us when we say that it will be impossible to truly replace Iron Man and Captain America, the heart and soul of the MCU, since the start. Instead, we must move forward together with the Marvel Studios, who will try to propel the MCU into uncharted territory and explore new stories and ideas with a team that isn't the Avengers, a team like the Fantastic Four, a team that has very interesting members who will stay in our hearts and minds for a long time when they arrive, filling at least some of the space we have in our hearts after Tony and Steve left. On a related note, tell us down in the comments below what are your thoughts on the entire Fantastic Four hype train, and what changes would you like to see Marvel Studios make in their adaptation of the movie? And also don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.